Exactly 12 minutes to the top of the hour. You are right in time for our first conversation this Wednesday morning. We center our focus on women's matters, women's issues the entire time, of Good Morning Kenya today, given the fact that it is the International Women's Day. So which better way than just to start your morning off with women's conversation and just looking at some of the achievements that women have made in different facets, different capacities, different sectors as well, trying to also track the loopholes that exist therein and chart the way forward as far as that is concerned. I have created first time this Wednesday morning with Dr. George right next to me, who is the Director of Air Quality, WRI, that is the World Resources Institute Africa, and of course he will also be telling us what this is and what it's all about. Right next to him is Mary Snyder Kamau, the country coordinator of the Kenya Water Partnerships, wears many hats, including digital activist on climate change, key advocate for engaging women as clean air champions, and we'll talk about all this and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Doreen.
Highly appreciate your time this Wednesday morning. Now, let's just kick this conversation, first of all, by understanding very quickly what WRI is, so that then we can be making context in our conversation as we make progress. Dr. Ari, let me start with you on that one.
So WRI, the World Resources Institute, is an institution that was established in the 1980s. The person who established this was a former advisor, senior advisor to Jimmy Carter. And I think the reason why it was established is the understanding that the world population, we are using the resources way faster than we are able to regenerate them. And therefore there was a need to kind of monitor what resources we have and how we are using them and how sustainably can we manage this. So initially WRI started as a think tank, a research and information institution, but later on we realized that is not enough, and there was need also to do the research and also to support in the action, and that is where we are at the moment. We are in more than 12 countries across the globe. The African headquarters is based in Addis Ababa, and our African director is a lady who gives me a lot of excitement about what I do.
That's Ethiopia?
Yes. Our director is Wanjira Madai, who is really passionate about what we do. So it's a good organization.
So you equally work a lot with women?
Yes. Sometimes the gender mirror for me really doesn't exist. Really.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So then, Mary, this is International Women's Day, and there's a lot of relations that will draw between, what Dr. is talking about, as far as especially clean air is concerned, issues of climate change, environment, and how we bring women on board in regards to these issues. But just first off, International Women's Day to you.
International Women's Day to you.
To you too, girl.
You're looking lovely.
You too. Okay, we cut you off, but no, don't worry. We maximize every time we get this chance. Nonetheless, what does this day mean to you? How important and significant is it just to you as a woman?
Absolutely. For me, I'll say women, we play a very big role in society, of course, and we wear a lot of hats. We take care of our babies.
I like that. We have a lot of hats.
Not that I have a baby, but we do take care of babies. Yes. Because I'm a woman, we take care of our husbands, we take care of our homes, we take care of our works, and we take care of everything. And so it is important for us to celebrate women, being that we're emotional beings, and we want to be appreciated sometimes for everything that we do. But besides that, is having women on the table when it comes to issues of women, like reproductive, like even like air clean quality, all these issues we want to be on the table so that we can be able to champion, so that we can also be able to talk to our fellow women and tell them what are the ways that we can be able to hold on together and make sure that the day-to-day jobs that we do, like cooking, like cleaning, are healthy to us or are taking care of us. Because if we take care of everybody, who takes care of us? Then we need to come up with methods that are going to be able to take care of it for us when we are doing our day-to-day jobs.
You really mentioned quite very important things. Women on the table to discuss their issues. That if we take care of everybody else, who's going to be taking care of us? And momentarily we'll also discuss about these issues. But then, Dr. George, much as it is the International Women's Day, but definitely you have sisters, could be a daughter, spouse. So then, just from where you sit, what would be the significance, in your perspective, of IWD to you would be?
I think it's, there is always the need to kind of stop and reflect and see what has made you the person you are today. Of course, I'm a man. I do a lot of manly things. But if I look back, the people who supported me to be who I am, there is a lot of women. I wanted to say 50% are women, but to be honest, I think it's 70% are women. And I think the debates about women empowerment, women equity, we should not look at it from the lens of just women, but also the lens of how do women shape men, for the men who they're our mothers, our sisters, our wives. So the interaction between the genders is very critical in making a wholesome society. And also the issues of women rights. I think putting in mind that when we talk about that, we are talking about my mother, talking about my sister, we are talking about my daughter. I have an 8-year-old daughter who keeps me on toes. So we are really talking not people who are out there, but people who are within our families. And really, as men, I would really like to see my sister succeed. I'd like to see my daughter succeed. I would like to see them live in a society where their rights are not suppressed. So we are actually talking about also the aspiration of men. We want our sisters and our daughters to really succeed. So it's something that we are also equally passionate.
I hear you. But then when you say that we need not to just be looking at this day and holistically women just from the lenses of gender issues, but a bit more, elucidate further, what exactly are you talking about?
I think this day particularly is when, as a global society, we are pausing and seeing how well have we done in promoting women's rights. So the day is focused on how well have we done, what do we need to do, what kind of journey lies ahead of us. So really, this is the day to reflect that. But sometimes when you have a day to reflect about one gender, the other gender might feel, we are left out.
And right now there's a lot of that conversation that we have really done so much so for the girl child at the expense of the boy. We've even seen the second lady, Dorcas Rigathi, coming up with programs for the boy child, and she's so big on that. But anyway, we can also talk about that later. But so then you're saying that we should also just look at it in terms of the gender card, but there needs to be something more than that, more like a reflective.
Yes. And I like the way you say the Happy Women's Day, and also I equally say Happy Women's Day.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm looking at it also as a celebration.
Yes.
We have a long way to go to achieve gender equity, but still we can celebrate the few gains that we have made. I know there is a lot of arguments that we are focusing too much on girl child and forgetting the boy child. But I think as a society, if we are honest, for a long time, before 1975, when the women rights movement kicked off and this day was established, issues of women were really suppressed. And from 1975, those issues started coming up. There was a lot of resistance. You can see we are moving in the right direction. And I think this day we look back, we see what we have achieved and what we need to do. And I think that is a fantastic, I really congratulate the people who came up with this day so that we can really think about what else we need to do.
Well said. I mean, Mary, when you listen to Dr. just also citing the fact that indeed we have made some strides, we've made progress, yes, but we might be having a long way to go. And see, the way you already agree, like we might be having a long way to go. So then just looking at where we've come from, especially just as women, even as we celebrate the International Women's Day, and trying to think beyond that, we indeed have a long way to go, if I should say that. So then, why has it become necessary to continue commemorating this International Women's Day? From where you sit?
Yeah, probably I should start by celebrating everything that has been done. Of course, we do have a long way to go, but we have started the journey. We are not where we were many years back, but again, we are not where we want to be. To date, there are still communities or people who are still rigid about women empowerment. You find there are communities where women are still not allowed to own land. That means there's still a lot to do. Then this is where we talk about equality and equity. We still have women who are not educated, or we still have people who don't believe that you should educate a girl child. That means, again, we still have a safari to go.
Just hold it there.
Yeah.
You're making very important points that I wouldn't want to cut you short as you're making them.
Okay.
So I want us to take a very quick breather. We circle back and we pick it up from that point of equality and equity, even as you tie down the different communities and what culture is doing for us. All right, time for that breather. We circle back with plenty more of this conversation, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We definitely appreciate your valid company. We continue our pace with our conversation, still holding court with Dr. George Mwaniki, the Director of Air Quality, that is the World Resources Institute Africa, and also Mary Snyder Kamau, the Country Director of Kenya Water Partnership. Mary, before we took that break, you're talking about the equity, equality, where we are in terms of the divide, and just why it's important to look at these issues as you commemorate the International Women's Day.
And I guess I was saying that there are still communities or people who don't believe that it's important to educate a girl child. Or even you find when it comes to, even in parliament now, we are the minority. Even when it comes to politics, we shy off. I should say because I'm a woman, you know, we're a bit shy. Like, this space is not for us. This space is for, it could be nature or nature. I don't know what could make us probably be shy when it comes to certain position. Is it because also because of the roles that we play, or is it could be because of also the culture that we come from,
or the structure in that area?
And the structure, you know, like this is for boys or women or girls.
That thing I'm telling you, thank God we actually have a gender balanced panel today. You know that issue you're saying, that especially when you look at some certain scopes and spaces, then it's like there are roles, that this is for men, this is for women, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I just do not get why at this time we would be saying, even in a working environment, this is for men, this is for women. I remember there's a time I actually said that it is in marriage where we have roles defined, because even the Bible dictates that. There's the husband who does A, B, C, and D, and the wife does. But in a working environment, in a career, why would you want to dictate, even in politics? Because if you're all qualified, if you all have the same experience and expertise, then why not?
We should be given the same opportunities.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Dr.
What
are you saying?
Personally, I agree. I think in the workspace, I think most of these gender roles are defined by culture and by society.
Even in the workspace?
Even in the workspace. It does not mean that is what is ordained for women or men to do. They should be quite open and flexible for anyone who is qualified to take up some of these roles. Having said that anybody who is qualified, historically, most of well-paying, really executive jobs have been reserved for men, and I think there is need to include some level of affirmative action to really encourage women within these spaces.
It's very interesting. What do you want to say? It looks like you're not agreeing.
No, I agree.
Okay.
I agree, because these things happens everywhere, in workspaces, in homes, and even in churches. You find, and probably if you're very vocal, I'm a vocal woman, you're told, that's not your space. Shut up. Unakuja sana. You know, a woman should come behind. You should use a man. You know? So you are shut down a lot. And probably that's why we are a bit shy when it comes to some things, because you're told, you're not supposed to. Like for me, when I grew up, I remember in our own house, we have a structure. I love my dad. My dad is a traditional structured man. When you have an issue, you go to your mommy. You know? I go to mom, and then now mom goes to
communicates to dad.
And then vice versa. Then dad communicates.
When dad wants to talk to you about something, goes through mom.
You know,
I'm telling
sometimes I did break that.
Yeah.
On trip days only. I will go direct to that.
Because that's where the money is.
But the structure, you see, now because of also where I have been brought up and how my dad is, and my dad was very strict on kitchen. My brother's in the kitchen. You see, let the girls go to the kitchen. But my mom was saying, no. Let everybody knows, at least everybody to understand, so that when they're alone, they can be able to take care of themselves. So again, where I am coming from, it was, this is for boys and this is for girls. And even when kids are small, they're taught, boys play with what? They play with guards or something. And ladies, as we are taught to take care of a baby, just when you're a baby, you have a baby doll and you're feeding it. So again, the roles are probably clear when we're a bit young. So we grew up with that.
I really want us to move to the clean air action and environment and climate change, but just allow me to stay here a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to pick your brains on this one, Dr. George. So then how do we move past this? Because you listen to what Mary is saying, and you realize this is encultured from as early as toddlers, that a boy plays as this, they are given this, and the lady this. So even as young as 2, 3, 4, you can begin seeing that a small girl having the motherly role, motherly nature already. And this is cascading even to the working space. Right now you talk about even women in STEM. You talk about women in some of these roles and careers that were traditionally men. And even someone would be having the interest, even the grades in high school, well enough to get to this space, but they just are scared to get into this space. So that from where you sit as a man, what can we do to, I know it's going to be momentarily, because not just that one should, but what can we do to sort of like begin even reorienting minds, even in the working environment?
Right. Very interesting question and very interesting comment. Personally, at least I'm talking now at a personal level.
Yes.
I think dividing roles within households or within workspaces, as these are men and these are women, is actually quite disempowering for men. For example, saying men cannot go to the kitchen, you're actually not serving that young boy, because sometime in life he might need to go to the kitchen, and if he didn't get the right skills at home, then you are actually disempowering that person. A very interesting comment, maybe off script.
Yes.
If you look at in Kenya, the life expectancy for men is much shorter than for women. True. And I'm actually very happy that is the case.
Really?
Because the way our society kind of nurtures men, if that was to reverse, when the woman leaves the men, I don't think the men would stay longer.
They would just be going after their good.
Because they are not socialized to really do these things that kind of caretaking, cooking and all those things. So I would really encourage people to think about some of these roles, even if we look at them in gender, with a gender lens, they're actually quite disempowering. For example, if my wife left the country maybe for a couple of months to go study or something, does it mean I will not cook for my kids?
You wait for her to come so that food can be cooked in the house.
Yeah, I should have the skills to actually do that and help raise the kids. Personally, I make sure that we don't have those very clear roles for men and women in my household, because personally I understand. I got married when I was 34 and I lived in the US for almost 10 years, and it's expensive to eat out in restaurants. So I had to cook, and I'm really happy about my mother. She taught me how to cook when I was in class 4.
And I like what you said, that we should not really demarcate those rules. And I'm so much categorical, especially in the working environment, because you'd hear that even a certain story a lady should, and you wonder, why not? You know, why shouldn't you do a certain story? Because of why? I just don't get it.
You should. Let me add on something. For me, I actually personally do not have a problem when it comes to the family and culture having the roles. My problem would be restricting other people based on gender.
Okay.
You understand? So it is okay for us to have that. But my issue will come in if you restrict other just because you're a woman, just because you're a man. You understand? You should have the freedom to do what you want to do, because again, it's important to have, sometimes, you know, the balance. The balance is where we need. It's important for the men probably to do a certain thing, is important. But if a woman wants to do a certain career, then they should be allowed.
And they can do it.
And they can do it.
Yeah, you know, I keep saying all the time that unless you try test someone on something, don't say they can't do just because you think they can't do because of their gender.
Yes.
And I say gender because this could be a man or a woman. It does not matter. As long as you have been tried and tested and you can do it, someone should let you to do it.
You should.
Let's get climate action now. And I want Dr. George to just help us understand this. This is the relationship between women and air pollution. This is what you largely also deal with. First of all, you talk about air action, air pollution. Is it one and the same thing?
Yes, broadly.
Okay.
Maybe just to put this in context.
Please.
Since I walked in here, which was almost an hour ago, I can assure you we have, all of us, taken more than 1,000 liters of air, and we have actually shared some air molecules. That has gone even to our lungs. There is a certain air molecule here that we have all breathed together. So air is that part of nature that is really intimate, and it's something that connects all of us. But the unfortunate thing is it connects not only humans, but everything else, including animals, including insects, plants, and even more unfortunate, including anything that consumes air, including fires. When you're burning waste, it's consuming some of the oxygen and then releasing some pollutants. And I think when the human body was evolving, or when it was designed by God, the envisioning of the human being ever living in a polluted air space maybe was not considered, because the issues of considering drinking dirty water or eating dirty food was there, because there are some acids in the stomach that try to rectify that. But in terms of air, what you breathe in goes straight to your bloodstream, and there are very few correction mechanisms. We have the airs in our noses then, and we can actually kick out some of the bigger particles, but the smaller particles and air pollutants go straight to the bloodstream and they become part of us. So when we talk about air pollution, it is an area that has not received a lot of traction in this part of the world, but if we do understand the gravity of air pollution, then we'll start paying more attention to it. Unfortunately, also there is some gender dimensions to air pollution based on the gender roles. For example, what Mary Snyder said, women in Kenya, in most African society, have been given some gender roles, for example, cooking and cleaning, and there are very specific air pollution that comes from those activities. For example, cooking with firewood does emit a lot of smoke, but in technical terms we call those small particulates, and when you breathe that in, it goes straight to your lungs and can cause some very serious health effects. And also the health effect from breathing in dirty air also differs between genders. So there is a need to really...
Just allow me to butt in, let me get that. You just did say that breathing of different airs...
Air pollution.
Of course, air pollution. It's cut across genders. In what way?
It has different impacts, because we are different biologically.
Different impacts?
Yes.
And the different genders?
Yes.
So it's not just that one thing?
Yes, yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So there are the common ailments that emanate from breathing dirty air. Let's just call it dirty air.
Yeah.
Some of them is the increase of lung cancer. I was seeing a report for Nairobi that is becoming a major issue of concern. Also issues of upper and lower respiratory diseases. I was actually looking at the Nairobi City County health data, and the top drivers of the health budget in this city is upper and lower respiratory ailments. That drives around 30% of the county's health budget. And you can see it's very closely linked to air pollution. Now going back to your question.
Yes.
Women, because we are different biologically, when we breathe in some of these particles and air pollutants, they do affect our bodies different. There are some common ailments, but there are some also ailments that are segregated by gender. For example, miscarriages, part of it can be attributed to dirty air, breathing dirty air, and some other ailments that I can share it on.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that when it comes to the health bit of it. But again, Snyder, you listened to the title talking about, you know, all these issues, and there's a part that he mentioned, especially when it comes to the relationship between women and clean air action, and this is sort of like cut across the different roles that women play, especially when it comes to cooking. And just like you talked about some other communities, we also know fully well that there's some places in this country whereby gas, they don't even know, they've not seen, so they end up using the conventional, traditional. So is this just the relationship we have between women and air, or is there something more to this? And how would you describe it from your perspective?
Yeah, before I get there, there's something that George was saying about the women and air, because our reproductive system is totally different. Actually, research shows that just when a woman is pregnant, already the health of the baby is affected if you breathe polluted air, you know.
So that's given already.
It's given. So that means, like you're saying, it's very important. We grew up knowing that it's important to have clean water, you know, taking care of the trees and the plants and all that. But air pollution now is coming up, is something that, and that's why the digital part comes in, where we want to also talk about it to the young people, we want to talk about it to the women who can be able to access internet and have it on our social media handles, talk about it on Twitter, talk about it on Instagram and TikTok and whatever, you know, because it's important for us to know how we can be able to take care of yourself by cooking, by what you breathe in, and even when we are pregnant as women, because it affects even the pregnancy, you know. So that's why we're saying it's different because of our reproductive health. Anyway, let's come now to the cooking part and all that. Again, I know we have had so many stories, and I've heard of those stories when I was even young and I didn't understand how this works, where a woman or someone who is cooking with makaa, charcoal, and then anaacha. Like for example, if you're cooking your mboshos, they take a bit of time, and so you can be so you take a nap. Just or quarter moto. I don't know how that happens, but when I go to Shago, that's
now it still happens.
It's still happening. So when you go to Shago, because it's very cold in the evening, so utakisha jiko yako ya makaa, you put it there. But even happens even in restaurant where they want to put the place a bit warm. So you put hapo makaa kando and then you unajekelea. We have so many cases of where people have lost their life through that method. So that I just wanted to use that story
but
to
I
tell.
thought through that method is only, and maybe you can comb my knowledge on that one, because I thought if you are to lose your life through keeping your atmosphere, your place warm, is if you sleep, like you light the jiko, you just let it to continue, you know, burning, and then you sleep.
Yes.
So even when you're awake?
No, I wanted to give that scenario when you're asleep to tell you how harmful it is even when you're awake. You understand? If you can be able to lose your life just because you took a nap and your jiko is there for a long time, then that means it also affects you when you're awake. All right?
I understand now.
I just want to, I'm putting it into layman's language so that we can be able to understand how air pollution can really does affect us. You know? That's why you find the stove, when you're using stove, you're told to put it outside. Why? What's the importance of that? But people will take it like and then you just leave it. You leave it there. And this is every day. We're not talking that something that you do once.
I've been a victim before, you know.
And the whole house is full of moshi.
Unafungua
dirisha, unafanya hivi. It has already affected you. So coming
just like that already.
Just like that. So coming up with method where we can be able to have clean cooking is very important for us.
Before I get to clean cooking, Snyder, let's backtrace a bit for purpose of context and understanding. You did say, you gave the example of the jiko.
Yes.
And I was just asking you that what I know, and I'm so sure what most know, is that when you sleep, when you take a nap, that's where the challenge comes in, because you might lose your life. But you just also did say that even prior to that, already it has affected you.
It does.
In what way?
It does, because what you're breathing is carbon, George?
Monoxide.
Carbon monoxide, right? And if you're breathing that, so it's not good for your health. That's why we encourage people to plant a lot of trees. You wonder why we want to plant a lot of trees. It's because what tree does, it takes the carbon monoxide and gives us what?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. Okay. So you see, when you don't have trees and all these, the industries, our kitchen are emitting all this pollution, then the trees are not there to take it.
All right. So the issue of trees has even just nothing to do with climate change and drought. This is actually, it's holistic.
It's holistic.
We'll come to that. There's a lot of things to discuss. But now, picking up from what Snyder is saying, Dr. there's something you did mention, that this is an area, you know, the Clean Air Action, it's an area that has not received a lot of traction. And you're really seeing a lot of relationship between women and this area, you know, clean air and air pollution, just aside from the industries and the big companies, but also just from our small way, like the cooking itself. Some of these things that Snyder is talking about, I'm just learning here instead. So then, why hasn't this area received a lot of traction? What is the problem?
Very good question. I'll start with a very good example.
Yes.
Supposing we drink dirty water here, in probably the next 2 hours, you'd be seeking medical help or assistance because the body reacts quite quickly. And for that reason, water quality has been considered as an urgent thing that we need to deal with. The same thing with food. But for air pollution, it's like somebody having an axe and every day you're hitting the tree once. At some point the tree will fall down, but it actually might fall down because there was a stronger wind. Nobody can really attribute the tree falling to the axe you've been hitting. So this is how air pollution is. It affects you slowly over time, and for that reason it does not get the attention it deserves as quickly as possible.
Because it's slow paced.
Yeah, it's slow paced. And for example, what Mary was talking about, when you sit in the kitchen and you're breathing in carbon monoxide that might put you to sleep and eventually to death, people recognize that as a danger. And you'll see most people do not sleep with a jiko in the same house because they recognize that immediate effect of that. Carbon monoxide is actually one of the air pollutants. And it does not only come from jiko, it also comes from industries, from cars, and even in Nairobi there is a lot of carbon monoxide. So based on the slowness of the impact of air pollution, and that's why it doesn't get the traction it deserves. The current estimates in Kenya, around 20,000 people die every year because of air pollution impact.
20,000 people.
20,000. And from
That's such a significant number for it to get the traction it deserves.
If you think about the post-election violence and how much attention it got and the number of people who died and compare with air pollution, you're seeing almost 20 times the numbers. And from where I sit, I think 20,000 is a serious underestimate. And it's based on data that was collected in much cleaner areas of the country. I think once we do what we are doing under the catalyst and really understand what level of pollution we have in Nairobi, for example, we'll get much better data to kind of show the number might be bigger than we think. I also have to mention something very interesting. I saw from the Nairobi City County health data. Since COVID, when COVID hit, there was lockdown. A lot of people lost their opportunities. After COVID, the city is observing an increase of respiratory ailments. And we were trying to figure out what's going on. And it's because when COVID hit and there was lockdown, people lost job opportunities. Economically, people are not able to buy the cooking gas and better cooking fuels, and so they have moved back to charcoal and firewood, which means the households are getting more polluted and even the air in general, and that is driving the health effects. So if you're not able to make those kind of connections, then the issue of air pollution will not get the traction it deserves.
Okay, so what you're saying is that this 20,000 could even be more than this number.
I think it's way bigger.
Then really there's a lot that we need to be doing. I mean, you can't be having something killing you slowly, whereas you could have just prevented it. But Snyder, when you think about that, do you think this women even are aware, so to speak? Is there enough knowledge, sensitization about some of these issues? Because there's so much more you can do about industries and companies, but in your own little way, even as that woman sitting at home cooking using these things that, you know, Dr. is talking about, is there enough knowledge, awareness as far as this is concerned? And what are you doing in your capacity? In
Yeah. I guess what we're doing now is just putting out awareness. Is something, but we still have a safari to go again. Of course, WRI and other organizations have come together to empower women on clean air and clean cooking, because let's be honest, with the rise of lifestyle or living now, then like you said, we are moving, or people are moving to this other side, because now there is so much to take care of. Unajuliza, people have to eat, and this is what I can afford, because it's a basic need. It's a basic need. So having empowering women, like I'm saying, using internet, but also one-on-one, where we go to the mashinani themselves and tell them the importance of having clean cooking. You know, so that's what WRI is doing, another organization. But of course, a lot needs to be done, but something also has been done, coming up with methods of clean cooking where it's affordable and can be able to be reached by so many other women, even in mashinani. Because like for me, when I'm thinking about cooking, I want something that is fast. But now, because I'm aware, it's not only something that is fast, but only something that is also clean and good for me and my children. Because you find the people who stay at home mostly are the women, us, the caregivers, right? And the children. So I'm not only putting the life, my life at risk, but even my children. So having a better place where how we can be able to have a nice meal and also have it clean, then that's a route to go, and that's what we were doing here. And then I think that's also, as we celebrate International Women's Day, to tell women, let's come together and have clean cooking in our homes, so that we can be able to just live long and also celebrate, you know, our children, our lives. Because again, we have to cook, but we want to do it nicely, or want to do it clean, if I should say that. It's
in the passion. You talk about, you know, the International Women's Day, but I mean, who wouldn't be having the passion and the excitement about it? But also, I'd want you to tell us about the digital bit of it. But before then, Dr. Snyder has talked about some of those programs, such as perhaps going even to, you know, the different areas, could be villages, talking about talking to women, for instance, about some of this, you know, clean cooking methods, I should say, in regards to the clean air action. Talk to me about how the reception has been like, and perhaps you can even tie that with different other programs that WRI is engaged with as far as women and clean air action is concerned.
Excellent question. I just want to add what Mary was talking. We did a quick study in Nairobi to see how do people perceive air pollution. And 85% of Nairobians think air pollution is what smells. If you pass through an open sewer, it smells, you say, okay, that's air pollution. If you pass through garbage that is rotting and it smells, you say that's air pollution. Not knowing that when you are in the city and the vehicles traveling around you, you are in certain areas, you are cooking using some of the dirty fuels, you are actually exposing more air pollutants than when you're passing through an open sewer. I'm not saying people should pass through open sewers, but I think...
But that just brings the contrast and the difference in how we understand what air pollution is.
Yes, yes. And I think because of that low understanding or awareness of air pollution, and that is why we don't have communities and individuals and organizations pushing for greater change in this sector. And that's why what you're doing today is really critical. And another important fact, for every 8 people who die globally, 1 of them dies because of air pollution impact. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's an issue. It's actually the #1 environmental cause of diseases and premature death. #1.
Air pollution.
Ahead of air contamination, food contamination, and all the other environmental causes of diseases. So it's a very serious issue that we need to give a lot more attention to. And I think as WRI, we are looking at air pollution broadly. Who do we need to engage? What kind of coalitions do we need to put together? What are kind of the policy options that we need to give to governments? And how do we tailor that to be Kenya specific? There's a lot of done on air pollution globally, so we cannot just do cut and paste. We do have specific needs in the country. We are still growing economically. We need to continue growing and offering more jobs to our people. But equally, we need to protect the environment, and in particular, in this case, air pollution. So how do we get these tailor-made solutions for air pollution work within the city. The current project, the Clean Air Catalyst, is kind of a pilot. We are piloting what works within African cities, and we are focusing on Nairobi. And then when we figure out what really works, then how can we blow it up to other regions? And to get really what works, it's not only on the policy or the carrot and stick component, but also there is need for engaging other stakeholders, particularly women on the grassroots. And how can these women talk to each other? Women are very good at talking and sharing the information with each other. So how can we really support that, and how can we have women as champions of air pollution, of air quality, better air quality? And what we have done is we have really partnered with organizations that are working on the grassroots. For example, Roots Kenya is one of our partners. They're also the National Commission of Gender Equity. It's also part of our partners. And also the city county does have a huge department on gender. So we are really working with them and identifying some of the women at the grassroots who can be champions. And I think it is a strategy that in 3 years we should be able to get some results. In 3 years we'll stop, pause, and see what worked, what didn't work, and how can we recommend to other organizations and other agencies if you want to push the issues of air quality within African cities. I
hear you. But much as you say this is a pilot project or program, I should say, but then have you so far gone to different other areas just away from the city, or just, it begins from the city? And if so, wherever place it could be, how has the reception been like?
I think the pilot itself, the Clean Air Catalyst, was funded by the USAID, and it's piloting how can we support developing countries take action to reduce air pollution. So we have 3 pilots globally. It's a global program. We are working in Indo, in India, and also Jakarta, Indonesia, and in Africa we are working in Nairobi. So we are looking at the cities are usually should I call them the repeat offenders on air pollution, because they have all these major sources together, and then they are centers of population, huge population densities. I think I saw some data saying Nairobi at night is 2.5 million. During the day we go to 5.5 to 7 million.
That's double. Almost triple.
So a lot of people wake up from where they wake up and then come to the city.
There.
And then we are all of us and we are exposed to these air pollutants.
Yes, I hear you. So Snyder, talk to me about the digital aspect as a digital activist on climate change, and then tying this to this year's theme of International Women's Day, which is innovation and technology for gender equality. How are you using even your expertise, your platform, as far as Women's Day is concerned, in terms of digitization, together with the theme and promoting the clean air action altogether?
Yeah, being that Nairobi is a metropolitan place, and again we have access to internet in Nairobi, so we use the platform where we can be able to reach wide people, a lot of people through the social media. So probably we'll pick out something, let's say the clean cooking, we pick it out, and then we all tweet or Facebook, or just do something. If you use that in your house, and take a picture and post it so that people see that this thing is happening, and we can be able to reach a lot of people, because again not everybody probably can be able to be here and share, but if I post it I can be able to probably have people who can be able to see if you post it. And so we just use the digital space from our comfort zone, from where you are, to just post something about anything to do with climate change, just to be able to again tell young people, because that's the target. That's the target when it comes to social media. And again, of course, if you have a mother, you can be able to pass the information to other people, because I believe that internet is very powerful, and now we are moving to social media. So it's a platform that we want to use to educate and put awareness out on air pollution, on climate change.
How are you capitalizing on this particular day? Because you also realize on the socials everywhere it's all about Women's Day. The hashtag is IWD. So then how are you capitalizing on just this day as far as this cause and vision is concerned?
Of course, being that today is Happy International Women's Day, we want to celebrate ourselves and celebrate even the milestones we have been able to take when it comes to climate change. Because again, a lot has been done. Now we are having conversation on tree planting. We're having conversation on air pollution. We're having conversation on taking care of our, small things. Don't burn your garbage out. All that. So for today is just celebrating the milestones that we've been able to do, because again it's been a journey, and we want to appreciate that at least now we have platforms and we have the knowledge, and people are being trained about this. Yeah.
Director is really saying we have to finish, but I still think there's quite a lot. But I also think that it would be a disservice to conclude this conversation not talking about, just as you mentioned, climate change, tree planting, and you realize this is in the vision of our president, matters of tree planting. In fact, he did talk about 5 billion trees by 2027. 10 to 15 billion by 2032. He's been on a spree of tree planting. In his birthday, he did this. Talk about the program, the Kazim Tani program that was there in the previous regime, which was halted. So now he said that this, the young men and women who are in this program, they will be incorporated in tree planting programs, of course, together with the KWS and different other institutions. So then one would imagine, Dr. that this will just be in a bid for climate change only, issues of food security, and things such as that. But it actually does cut across, and you're talking to me about how this is even tied to air pollution. So just for also Kenyans who might be watching to understand why this vision is key, important to the president, and why we need to be borrowing it, explain a bit further on that.
I think tree planting is something that we've been doing in Kenya for a long time, and we have mainly focused on the rural areas. I think this is time we also think about planting trees within the cities. I'm very sure when you are in the city, you feel much hotter than when you drive out of the city.
The city is very dirty.
The city is dirty. It has issues of heat islands where heat is really concentrated because of the buildings. And one of the ways to reduce the issues of heat island within a city is actually planting trees. But also I would caution when picking the trees to plant in major cities, please let's have a conversation, because some of those trees can actually aggravate air pollution, because also trees do, when you walk next to a pine tree, you hear that nice smell. If it meets other air pollutants from the air, some chemistry can happen and can make air pollution worse.
So trees not just a tree.
for cities, tree is just not a city. A tree. We need to kind of.
I think we needed to know that, because I'm not so sure we actually know a tree is not just a tree.
Yeah.
Quite important. So also need to be having the conversations of what kind of trees to plant, much as it's in the vision and it's for a good cause.
I think that conversation is extremely critical. Before we go planting the trees, let's discuss which trees should we plant.
Let's have a conversation first. I want to give you the last words, Snyder. As we look at this, International Women's Day, I know we've said that there's a lot to celebrate. There's also a lot we are looking forward to, but there are still challenges and loopholes. Yes. And when we start about them, yes. So I just want to get what will be your word? And this actually cuts across both genders, because as you're saying, we can't do the women's celebration without having men on board. We need each other, basically. What would you want people to just know as you celebrate these days, looking at where we've come from, where we're going, and some of those issues that still underline between where we were and where we are going?
For me, it's a call to everybody, the religious leaders, the people who are decision makers, us, the women, the men, everybody, just to come together for us to hold hand and make sure that we have a good place to live, because we all have the same motherland. We all breathe the same air. Like you say, that is one thing that is common to all of us. So for me, it's a call to everybody to come, and so that we can hold hands together and embrace gender equity and equality and make this world a better place, and clean cooking, because we have to eat every day. You see the reason I'll say that, because these are things that we need. These are things that we do every day. These are things that we need to sustain us. So just having all of us on board to bring equity and equality, then it's going to help us to the vision that we want to have.
Yeah, I like that. It's a consolidated effort. You can never talk about one gender and miss out the other. No. You can't talk about women and talk about men. You can't do the same. Vice versa is correct. So we equally need each other to make it a better place. Thank you very much, lady and gent, for your time. Highly appreciate your valuable inputs into this conversation. Asante sana.
Thank you.
I have been speaking to Dr. George Mwaniki. who's the Director of Air Quality, WRI, that is the World Resources Institute of Africa, and also Mary Snyder Kamau, the Country Coordinator of the Kenya Water Partnership. Definitely what has formed center of our conversation is looking at women's role in sustainable clean air action, tying it down to the International Women's Day. And I can tell you for sure we are not yet done with women's conversation. We still have an interesting conversation coming your way with Dr. Mary Nyasimi. Stick around for that, coming in a short while.